I forgot to start it. She forgot to save, I forgot to start.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
So as I
Chris,
say,
yeah, so
wonderful film,
yeah.
but while watching it, I started to think, can these kids do things with Excel that you yourself can't do or haven't figured out yet?
That's right. I can't do what they do.
Whoa.
Okay, I don't know all the things. I know a lot of Excel, but not the 70%. And I always assumed that Stradivarius could not play as well as Itzhak Perlman. Okay, so they're Itzhak Perlman. Okay, I'm the guy who developed what it was. I wasn't Stradivarius. That was the guys who built Excel. So, you know, I think this sort of shows that. It's in terms of, you know, using tools. It's a thing about, and the value of learning it. I mean, that, as a developer, one of the most wonderful things is when you see a tool that you built that others can use and make music, so to speak, and can do what they need to do, and that you created a tool that is able to do that. That's what I love. That's what I live for. And so that's, you know, for me, this is the second time I've seen it. It's better the second time. My wife and I have decided. The one scene that got me, for me, was Cameroon when they were teaching them how to use my program. In other words, it was Excel, but they were teaching the parts that I had developed, was what he was showing on the screen, to people who were going to use this to help them do their work and stuff like that. That, that was, I don't know how many people, I mean, in your life, there are things to do where you can build things that others use, or you can teach people and you can help those people then do their lives, or you can help them through problems, or, I mean, there are all these different things you can do. For me, that was one of those, and you apply it to yourself. Is that?
That makes sense. I congratulate you as a tool maker.
And thank you. As a tool, I've always said that, you know, that's what it'll say on my, on my tombstone, as well as a father and grandfather.
Oh, yeah.
An average student.
An average student in a class at Harvard Business School, yes. But I definitely will, because they grade on a curve, so you know where you are, you know, in terms of that. Yes?
Dan, can you talk a little bit about the transition from development from VisiCalc to Lotus to Excel, that whole kind of history there?
I mean, it's there. 1, 2, 3, which was Lotus VisiCalc that we did. Bob wrote the actual program. I wrote the manual that said what it was supposed to do. And 1, 2, 3 was like the 50th spreadsheet after us.
But there's one important point. Mitch was a product manager.
Mitch was, he's the guy who did.
1, 2, 3. Mitch Capor was what basically did 1, 2, 3. So the reason it was sort of the best, follow-on spreadsheet, because he actually knew it. When what surprised me was how long it took people to make copies. We had SuperCalc, and until Dan told them, they didn't even know about using
That was the
arrows.
second spreadsheet.
That was the second. Then Multiplan, they missed the joke, and they thought it was row and columns on the graph, and not realizing, why it was chosen to be A and B and point to, and all the subtleties. So it really took a while to get to Excel. And, again, surprisingly long. And I think part of it might have been that sort of, if you do something smoothly, you don't see how and why it works. On the other hand, Quattro made us realize a lot more about the spreadsheet was not just calculations. They really emphasized presentation and those aspects. So it's just interesting to see how the program evolved. So it wasn't just Excel is not spreadsheet. The idea evolved, but it took a surprisingly long amount of time.
That was one of the things, one of the ideas I was trying to do was you were editing the output, and the output mattered. What 1, 2, 3 did is it added commas to numbers, and the columns could be different widths, and better graphing, much better graphing. And that's so the presentation was better. And then when Excel came in, and it wasn't the first, bitmap, GUI, whatever, but it was the one that was able to sell really well. It had a grid you could see, which you could print out, which was a wonderful thing. And it had fonts, and so it had even better presentation. So it's the calculations and the presentation, which they talk about in the movie, about how you present data, results matters, because that's communications.
But one thing you forgot, that the original way to describe it with me was much more graphical and interactive than this. The heads-up display, you point to things, manipulate things with your hand. This was all in the 70s, because we'd seen the Architecture Machine Group, which is now called the Media Lab at MIT. So it had all the ideas, and the real genius was reducing it to the grid. And that gave it structure that you can work with. So, a lot of this is sort of, they finally, the computers are powerful enough to do the graphics. But in a sense, it came full circle to the original vision.
We knew you should have done certain things, but the computers of those days were not powerful enough. So the key was figuring out what you need, what's the minimum that would do all the things you wanted to do.
Yep.
And I had been practicing doing that in other products. I'd worked on word processing before that and stuff, and getting that in, and then Bob pushing me and saying, no, we're going to put this thing in that I think you need, even though you're willing to take it out.
Well, that was one important thing, the fact that there were two of us. Dan could have written the program, and I understood the business needs, so we can negotiate. And that's very hard when you get a team above two people.
Plus, I was in college. I was in grad school.
Oh, no, that you're too busy, but it worked out well that one person, you're arguing with yourself. With two, you can negotiate. With three, you lose control.
Another question? There was another question? Yes.
Were you surprised by the involvement as it went along?
Was I surprised at the involvement after us, you mean?
Yes.
They were the natural things. I was surprised and very pleased when Mitch decided to keep, when he did 1, 2, 3, to keep what was good about VisiCalc and not do the things and make changes that would make it the product better, but not get rid of it and do it differently for the sake of being different, which is what Microsoft did with Multiplan. And that was part of the genius of what he did, and John Sachs, who programmed it when they did 1, 2, 3, was, keeping the stuff and doing those. Is that?
And Excel still supports VisiCalc compatibility mode.
Oh, yeah, it does?
You type a slash key.
Oh, you type a slash key. Yeah, if you type a slash into Excel, slash IR, it still inserts a row, the same thing in VisiCalc. I mean, if you had a VisiCalc disk, 1, 2, 3 could read that disk and run it without change.
Maybe Excel haven't tried it.
Excel, you could take a lot of 1, 2, 3, most 1, 2, 3, but not all the macros, and you could run it so that if you already had it, you could upgrade nice and smoothly. And that was important, so that you didn't lose your work, because so much of business and stuff is in Spreadsheet. That's what they were talking about. The data is in the spreadsheet. You don't know how many companies, all of their data is sitting in spreadsheets all over the place. And then personally, and nobody knows how it works. So they have to continue using that same one. So you want compatibility.
Yes. Oh, by the way, I feel sorry for the woman who didn't save the files, because Microsoft made a marketing decision to only do autosave to OneDrive.
To which?
They only autosave to OneDrive.
Oh, to OneDrive. Oh.
And I think that's a marketing decision.
Oh, which she should sue. No. So any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, it's a great tool that you developed.
Thank you.
I've made a career using it. But at what point did you realize you were also a game builder?
When did I realize I was a game builder? Well, what I realized right away was we were building something that people would use for things we didn't think about. when the first cards came back from people saying what they were using it for, and one person said something about calculations during surgery, and another person told us that they were using it for figuring out which slot machine should be where on the casino floor. That was the first person who actually bought a paid-for copy, Alan Snyder at Levithal Horwath. That's what they were using it for. So we learned that you never know what your tool is going to be used for.
One of the big uses was simply out of office. You just move the name over when people got out of the office.
Yeah.
It was basically a piece of paper you could play with.
So, yes, Dan,
This is more to the movie than your work.
yes.
It wasn't clear to me, and I may have missed it, how many contestants or
Oh, it wasn't clear how many contestants and stuff like that. I think,
10 of them is 20%. Get out your spreadsheet and calculate the
yeah,
rest.
no, I think, it's 50 to 100 people. I think it was 50 to, I tried to count the number of laptops there were. There were like, what, 4 rows of
No,
about,
he said 10
about,
10 of them is 20%.
and then but they gave those numbers in terms of that. And, let's see, this isn't the one. Yes, does that help? I mean, so, it blows me away when they say how many people participated in competition about office, around the world who were all in high school or college. And that's just the people doing, Yes,
So I work in the tech field, and I'm here with my 12-year-old daughter. Thanks for this opportunity, first of all, to see the movie and have this interaction. When we look at your careers, Visical and the work that you did in the beginning itself is so impactful, but then you went on to do other things which were as impactful and more maybe. How do you keep the drive going, and if there are 1 or 2 things that maybe my daughter can take away?
so the question is, how do you keep the drive going doing other things? How you can just turn on a computer anywhere and it connects to Wi-Fi and you don't have to have done it? Bob made sure that happened when he worked at Microsoft. So, I mean, there are all sorts
Yeah,
of
and the
things.
world is still broken. Somebody's got to fix it.
So, how do you keep going? Well, if you're an engineer, you just like building things. I mean, I love building things and things that people use. That's, some people love painting. So,
I think early in my career, my first job was actually on Wall Street in 1966, creating an online service that gave other people the power to do their own calculations. So there's a long tradition of sort of empowering people, and we're still at the earliest stages of that. So there's plenty to do.
So and if you're an engineer, you love fixing things. Should I tell my joke? Carol? Okay, Carol says I should tell my joke. This is a real help. If you work with engineers, you should understand this, okay? There's a joke. It was way back when they had guillotines and stuff, and there were 3 people brought to the guillotine to be killed. And there was a lawyer, a doctor, and an engineer. They take the lawyer, stick his head in there, pull the lever, blade comes down and stops right over his head. He says, I'm a lawyer. I know the law is you can only try once. I go free. They say, you're right. And he goes free. The doctor they put there, pull it, stops right there. And the doctor says, well, I learned from experience from others and stuff like that. And I saw what happened to the lawyer. I go free. Sure. But the engineer put there, and he goes, wait, I think I see the problem. So engineers love solving problems, okay? And I had a problem to solve, and that's why we have spreadsheets and stuff like that. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I should say it's not just engineers. I mean, one of the challenges what I'm doing is involves understanding markets, economic, business, and the interaction. So we really, it's not, it's a form of engineering, but it's not just this narrow form of engineering. And if you look at VisiCalc, the challenge was not just programming, but Dan and I were creating experience. And that was, I think, what distinguished it from a lot of the other programs, even the ones that followed, was we did whatever we could to create that experience, including if you made a mistake, had to reboot the machine, we'd preserve the state. And so that, I wouldn't just call it engineering. There's something about design and creating solutions that's, larger.
Oh, there are a few more questions. We'll take one over there. Yes.
What were your targeted hardware platforms when you started?
Now, when I designed it, okay, when I first thought of it, I was thinking of a mouse and a head-up display, which is what we call augmented reality today. But I was imagining that. And then I was thinking of some mini computer-ish in a box that DEC was selling as a PDT. But it was an Apple II, and then the TRS-80, which was Radio Shack. It was the personal computers of the day that you could buy. Then the IBM PC and stuff. But that was the only ones you could buy yourself.
To put in perspective, just so you know, the design point was a 16K, we finally did 32K, 16K Apple II, which is 1/1,000,000th of the typical computer today, just remember.
16K that's 1,000 bytes, and that included the operating system and the screen and stuff like that. So
And now you
does
get
that answer
billions.
your question? There was one other question? Yes.
I'm wondering whether the spreadsheet has moved, or whether Excel has moved into bioinformatic applications.
I have no idea. You tell me.
The answer is...
Mark, you're closer to it than I am.
The answer is, somebody must be using it for that.
Yeah, for bio, I don't know, Rachel, do you know it all?
I would assume they used Excel at some point and probably still do, but they probably use other things on top of it as well.
So the question is the answer was using Excel, but also things on top of it. One of the beauties of Excel, well, first of all, VisiCalc could connect to other things because it turned out that the file you were reading was actually the keystrokes to recreate the screen. So that therefore other programs could write things that could read it and become that. Excel was designed to interact with other programs really well. And that's one of the reasons people have to use it, because it's the only thing that other programs the company has built know how to connect to.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story. My brother's working at Lars Livermore, and they had one of the 3 Apple IIIs. And it got, their boss required to go to Washington, take it to Washington, D.C., so they could do the national budget.
Okay, so that's an interesting, first of all, Lawrence Livermore is the lab where they designed atomic weapons and other stuff to do with, it's a national lab with all. When we were doing VisiCalc, we had to decide how many significant digits. If you remember in the movie, they talked about Fibonacci numbers, and Excel can only handle so many digits. We had to decide what was the maximum number of digits, because of some technical reasons. And basically we're discussing it, and I sort of said, well, maybe we could use it for calculating the budget of the United States in dollars. And that's, how many is that? And that's the dollar. It turned out within 3 years or 4 years, the Wall Street Journal was talking about how people all over Washington were using VisiCalc spreadsheets and stuff to be able to figure out the budget that Reagan had proposed. So, yes, there's a question in the back.
Did you come up with the name VisiCalc, and is it a visible calculator?
Well,
Is that...
did I come up with the name VisiCalc visible calculator? Now that is there's contention there.
There's no contention.
Okay, wait. There is a person who was our publisher who made the decision to use that name. We came up with many names. Bob, well...
I'll tell you a story. It was at Vic's Eggs on One on Mass Ave at 3 a.m.
A restaurant named Vic's Egg on, V-I-C''S.
And my father had a company called Telematic. And he had a logo with a tele and a capital M in the middle, antennas. And so I thought, visible calculator with a capital C, which is why you got that intercaps, which people, is now common.
Now, the person who's the publisher, who was
Yeah.
having breakfast with Bob then, I was not there, he thinks he came up with the name. My joke is, they looked at the menu, Vicks, V-I-C-S, then they came up with VisiCal. But Bob named our company. Bob comes from a family that names,
Oh, yeah, we have a lot of product.
they names products and names people. So, that's.
Yeah, they made up my name too. There's a movie about me in the other room called Frankenstein, or Frankenstein, sorry.
And what was your mother's maiden name?
Oh, well, she was.
Father. Oh, she was Shute.
No, but I did have an Uncle Boris. We can go through the whole
Boris,
name
yeah.
thing. In any case, the other name is Electro Ledger, which was you
Oh,
on.
no, I wanted CalcuLedger.
Okay.
Because I didn't think anybody knew what a spreadsheet was except accountants.
Well, that's why.
But everybody had heard of a ledger, sort of. ElectroPage, that was from, I don't remember his name.
But who heard of a ledger either?
What?
That's why I like just calculator.
Yeah, so, but, we ended up with
Anybody have a
this
better
account and it
name?
worked really well. Yes, Seth.
Got a question.
But you have a better name?
Better name?
Yeah.
How many functions did VisiCalc have?
The first one, I'd have to look at you can find it on my website, go to bricklin.com and go to the history section, look at the part that says the VisiCalc you can run, and there is a copy of the reference card that tells you everything.
Next time you visit, I'll show you the big reference card.
But it was about 10.
Well, one thing we didn't want to do was the pain, the transcendental functions.
Sine, cosine.
Yeah, that's a real pain, so we're gonna skip it, who needed it in business? Carl Helmers wrote a review in Byte magazine, say how wonderful they were.
It's saying that VisiCalc was gonna have those functions, so I had to do those functions. Now, there's an interesting story here. I had to do those functions, and I didn't know how to program them. So I had run into a person, I think was visiting over at Honeywell, who had that summer been at Microsoft. And he's the person who wrote for Microsoft, for the Microsoft Basic, the transcendental functions, and he told me which book to have. And if you read Bill Gates's book, which I recommend if you like children and stuff, you should read Bill Gates's new book called Source Code, which if you look in the inside whatever, that person has his name in there.
Who was it?
But
No, I can.
yeah, no, it's listed there. So I had to program transcendental functions because it was in don't pre-announce features that you haven't done yet.
And it's 12 digits decimal. By the way, one thing we did was decimal arithmetic.
Decimal arithmetic,
So
not
that the
binary.
round-off errors would match accountants.
I wanted it to be the same as your calculator.
Nobody ever appreciated it, it's all binary now.
I have some answers to some questions that I know people have. This is not from me. I wrote to the producer, one of the producers, Anna Churalambas, who is the producer and worked with me. She also was the producer of a movie called The King of Frankston, which is a town in Australia. One of the questions was, how are the 6 participants you highlighted chosen? Was that a question you had?
Yeah.
Yes. Going into the project, we knew we wanted to represent as much of the world as we could through our cast. We tried to look at countries who took the competition seriously, and then a few unexpected countries. Over a lot of Zoom calls and late night meetings, we met out 6 and immediately knew they would make the perfect spreadsheet champions. They all represented different things, they all had different hobbies, different challenges, and different motivations, different motivators. So together they allow us to tell a fairly universal story about the power of technology. Does that answer your question? Now, somewhere in the write-ups on the movie, it talks, I think they had continued with the credits and stuff, it talks about being non-exploitive. So the question that I had to her was, how is non-exploitive defined in the context of this film? And in a discussion that my wife and I had with her, she mentioned getting a consultant for some of the showings like this that they did. And she wrote back, I think we tried to make it feel like a collaborative process with the students. We as a creative team were very conscious that we were filming these young people one of the most stressful few days of their lives. So we wanted to make sure they could feel as safe and comfortable as possible with us. We also shared the rough edit with them ahead of locking it in and allowed them a chance to make any suggestions or comments. We also knew that we were representing 5 countries, so ensuring we represented those cultures as accurately as possible was really important. A big thing for this project was we selected and filmed with our students before the competition. Okay, a lot of these things, they find the winners and then they film them afterwards, and that's why you get to see them, win and whatever. So we had locked into them, and we knew we wanted to tell their stories regardless of where they would place. This meant we got to spend time with them. They got to know us and made for a very intimate and wonderful film. We also did work with a neurodiversity consultant throughout the process, working with this person, Beth Radulski, on everything from how we set up interviews, how we ask questions, how we run the filming days, through to how we are releasing the film now. It was important to us as a team that we gave everyone who was worried with the chance to be their best on and off camera. We wanted to make sure the filming environment was a safe and easy to be in space for anyone. Some of their showings were ones where the lights were still on and it wasn't as loud and stuff like that. It wasn't as crowded, and it's listed as that. Are these helpful? These? Yes, good. Beth has been an incredible support, and we have learned so much through this collaboration. And we actually bring the practicing onto all our other projects as we move forward. This is a team that develops documentaries. Let's see, and I asked, what other questions? Why don't we use more of the test in the film? I take it some people, I know that a lot of people have asked about that. As creatives, we made the decision to commit to the emotional journey of the students. We had many, many different versions of the test scene, longer, shorter, more detailed, but anytime we try to explain in more detail the test, it would impact the intensity of the film. Seeing it the second time, I noticed the fraction of a second, they show you an actual question to get a feel for it, and that's why you don't have to be technical to see the film, because it doesn't matter. We wanted to bring audiences on the emotional journey the students experience. I guess it was a creative decision for us, mixed with a few logistics and security requests from the competition organizers. And finally, how can you watch the film now? And it's going to be available next week, November 13th, globally. It'll be directly digital, where you'll be able to go to their website and be able to pay them some money and see it if you want to show it for schools or things like that. Yes, there's a question way back there.
I'm not sure what my question is, but it has the word AI.
Oh, okay, AI.
So
They mentioned it.
In 5 years down the road, or 6 years,
1 year.
is there going to be an impact or changes?
It's already there.
Spreadsheet.
It's all, yeah. AI is already used. When you use your camera, does it show you, choose the face for you to focus on it? That's AI.
Yeah. No, AI, Microsoft right now is rolling out many more AI features that combine the programs. So that's going to have a real impact on these kind of competitions, and is a whole topic in its own right.
But there's a difference between today's AI that is popular, which sort of, you ask it something and it gives you different answers different time, and something like Excel that is very reproducible, you hope, and understandable if you want to. You can figure out how it works, hopefully. You may not be able to understand what somebody else wrote with it, but something. But AI, you can talk on forever, and I figure...
Well, this is, I've been getting to a lot of it. AI is a very broad category. And I've been using a lot to write software, and the programming languages are a common language. So there's one use of Excel is it's the common language between what the AI engine is and what you're doing, so that you can look at. But a lot of this, what's the contest, will be taken care of by AI and you're more working with it. Sometimes it'll do the stupid things, sometimes smart things, but for now, that'll be a common language. What it'll be like in the future, who knows?
More about, how did people feel about the film? Yes?
I'm glad you read all those, what you just read about the movie.
Yes.
I have marginal, if any, experience with Excel. I would consider myself a proud geek, but nonetheless, this movie was about so much more than Excel. I mean, it was a study of adolescents in different cultures, the way they reacted, their level of maturity, and I thought it was, you know, the choice of the people, the youngsters whom you focused on, was really a really great spectrum. I mean, you know, I had my own opinion. The kid from Australia was like, you know, every boy, in my opinion, every white boy. The kid from Cameroon was like sent from heaven, and the differences in them and their level of maturity was just, and it had very little to do, my feelings had very little to do with what they were doing. But
So you were surprised, this is not what you expected?
it's more than
you expected.
I think, you know, in the current political climate, it's a very important movie, because I think a lot of Americans have no idea that this is worldwide, that these skills, capabilities, everything, you know, are worldwide. I don't know what the image of most people is, but one advantage of traveling is you learn they're part of a larger world. And I think this is a reminder that these people from all over the world are fully capable, you know, just like us.
The film company is from Australia. You know, I mean, if you saw who funded this and stuff like that. And, yes.
Just to piggyback on what this fellow just said, and not only about the kids, but the breadth of the parenting.
The breadth of parenting, I want to make sure this gets...
Really challenging children.
Yes.
And how each of these parents or family groups really dealt with the fact that this was their child and nurturing them in such a way. It was very beautiful.
Oh, so this is a type of film that in school where you're learning to be a therapist, you watch this, like when we were in business, we had to watch 12 Angry Men, okay? Because it's about how to persuade and about, you know, stuff like that. This is you can have there's some discussions, a lot of discussions, is that, as a therapist? Is that what you see, or?
Yes.
I like the one.
The parents and the teachers, the adults that were nurturing these children.
I like the one
They came up to that task.
where he said the father's just as nerdy as he is.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Look at
Now, you can see, if you go online, you can see some videos of some of these kids later, because when they have the showings, they fly, Microsoft pays to fly these kids in to the showings. You know, we didn't do that here. But, you know, Mason is this tall kid, curly hair but shorter, you know, and not, you know, I mean, it's like they've gone through a lot, and it'll be interesting to see some of that type of stuff. Anything else? Any other feedback or any? No, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to trip over the wires?